Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my farmhouse kitchen. So in today's video, we are going to be talking all about einkorn. My guess is if you are anywhere in like the healthy eating, whole food, real food space here online, you've definitely heard about einkorn, specifically like using einkorn flour. So I thought I would do a whole video kind of breaking down what einkorn is, the health benefits of it. Is this a flour that you should be using in your cooking? How do I use it? Basically everything about einkorn flour. If you guys are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Becca. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm very passionate about explaining the why behind, food, whether it's, good or bad. I don't like any of those labels. I like to actually explain to you the science behind things and the facts behind things so that you can just be a more informed consumer, so that you can help to make, better, or help yourself make better or healthier decisions when it comes to food. But it doesn't have to be all or nothing by any means. I'm a big intuitive eater, but I do really like einkorn. So I wanted to do a whole video kind of explaining the benefits because I do mention it here and there on my YouTube channel. And one, I think educating on something like this is important because there definitely are some benefits to know about and most people don't. But also so that I can refer you to this video if I ever talk about einkorn in the future, if you're like, what is that? So let's get into what exactly it is. So I have a big bag of einkorn flour here. So einkorn is just a certain variety of wheat, and it's considered an ancient wheat because it has basically never been messed with any modern farming technology. And what I mean by that is it's never actually been hybridized. So what hybridization actually is it's taking two genetically different species. So in this case, it could be two different types of wheat, and it's essentially crossbreeding them so that you make this hybrid, this new form of wheat. And the reason that farmers do this is to increase yield, to increase disease resistance, and also you can increase basically like the kind of weather that elements that they can withstand. So, withstand drought or extreme temperatures, things like that. So hybridizing isn't inherently bad. There obviously are benefits that come out of doing this. However, it will change like the genetic structure. It will change the makeup of the wheat, which can then have different impacts on things like digestibility or, how much protein is in it or, how it tastes. Now, einkorn wheat has never undergone any hybridization, and it's actually the only wheat left that has not ever been hybridized. So that's why it's considered an ancient wheat, because it is the same today as it was thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago when it was planted way back in the day. So when we're actually looking at like the genetic makeup of something like einkorn, this has it has two sets of chromosomes, but it has 14 chromosomes in it. And then if we're looking at modern wheat, which has undergone hybridization, it has a total of 42 chromosomes. So you can see it's just become a lot more complex. There's a lot more going on because it's been crossbred, and it just changes the genetic makeup. And when there are changes to the genetic makeup of the plant, that is obviously going to change how the plant grows, what it's made of, and eventually it's going to change what we end up eating. And specifically when we're looking at wheat, one major change to the end product is actually a change in the gluten structure. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a quick second to tell you about my nutrition and intuitive eating program, Mindful Eating Made Simple. This program is all of my knowledge, education, tips, expertise, experience, all in one place, where I teach you everything you need to know about not just nutrition, but also how to eat in a way that is healthy and balanced for the lifelong. I am a firm believer that you need to be equipped both with robust nutrition knowledge that makes sense, that can be applied to your daily life, but also understanding how to eat intuitively, because I believe that that is the only way to enjoy eating, but not go overboard and be able to maintain health and vitality through your lifetime. So if you are just done with being on a cycle of dieting and trying this diet and failing and trying again and all of that nonsense, or maybe you're just trying to eat healthy, but you find nutrition confusing or you find it stressful and you feel like you kind of end up turning it into a diet in itself and you just can't do it in a way that is relaxed and sustainable and balanced, then this program is for you. I will personally be here to hold your hand and walk you through as you build on this new knowledge and make these changes. My mission is to help women feel confident with healthy eating, but without the complex. And that is exactly what I do in this program. So I will leave a link down below if you are ready to join me inside the program. And maybe you're still on the fence. And if that's the case, I would highly recommend taking my free mindful eating mindset masterclass, where you are going to start to learn how to break down that diet mentality, how to eat healthy for the long term in a way that's balanced and sustainable, and also avoid some of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to healthy eating. If this sounds like something you are needing in your life, I so hope to see you inside the program. I want to help you make the changes that are actually going to give you your freedom back, give you your life back, and allow you to eat in a way that has both enjoyment but nourishment at the same time. So you've probably heard online that, einkorn flour is easier to digest or that it has lower gluten. So to explain exactly what that means or where that's coming from, you have to understand that there are two different proteins that make up gluten. There is glutenin and then also gliadin. So that gliadin protein is actually what is most difficult to digest. It's kind of the culprit of what makes modern wheat harder to digest. And when I say harder to digest, I mean it can cause bloating or gas or just GI upset in general. Some people have a hard time digesting wheat. They may think that they have a gluten insensitivity, and in a lot of cases that might be true. Then you've got full-blown celiac, which is actually an allergy to wheat, and that's kind of a whole different subject. But a lot of people feel that they are gluten insensitive, but when they eat einkorn, they have none of these symptoms. They have no GI upset whatsoever. And the reason for that is most likely because the gliadin protein that is in modern wheat is really tough to digest. There's actually a lot of the amino acid sequences that are in that specific gliadin protein in modern wheat, hybridized wheat. They kind of resist digestion, pancreatic enzymes and gastric, meaning from your stomach enzymes, and then enzymes that actually come from the brush border, meaning the lining of your intestine. It just seems to resist their effects. So it basically, all of these different enzymes that are designed to break down amino acid sequences, for some reason this gliadin protein from modern wheat is just resisting a lot of that. So it ends up not getting broken down, and that is what creates can cause gastrointestinal distress, because you've got this thing that was supposed to be broken down and now it's kind of passing through still whole. It's disrupting a lot of the function down there. The microbiome, the bacteria in your gut are going to really feed off of that, because it's this whole big thing that they can eat versus something that's really much smaller and broken down. But also it can elicit an immune response in the body as well, which is another big thing people tend to experience when they have gluten insensitivity. So when people refer to einkorn, being more digestible or easier to digest, people who have gluten sensitivity have an easier time digesting or no problem digesting einkorn. That is why. Another benefit of einkorn that I wanted to point out, which I feel is a lesser known one. Most people know that it's easier to digest, lower gluten, all of that. But it's actually the starch makeup of the einkorn makes it more favorable for your blood sugar, which I think is a really important point. I've done a whole video here on my channel all about blood sugar, how it works, how carbohydrates impact it, how food in general, more general, impacts it, and why it's really important to understand this and factor this into when you're eating if you really want to fuel your body and feel good. So I would definitely go watch that video if you don't really understand blood sugar or why it's important to pay attention to it. So grains, whether we're looking at an einkorn grain or if we're looking at spelt or if we're looking at modern wheat, all of these contain starch. This is the carbohydrate rich part of the grain. And there's actually two different types of starch that are present in grains. So there is amylose and amylopectin. The only thing you really need to know about these two starches are that amylose is slower to break down into the smallest form, which is sugar, versus amylopectin is much faster to break down and therefore is going to enter or flood your bloodstream with sugar more quickly than if you're comparing to amylose, which breaks down much more slowly, which would give you a much more steady release of sugar into the bloodstream. So we're talking about amylose is like a steady rise of blood sugar and then a steady fall. Amylopectin is more of like a sharp increase, and then it would be a sharp decrease as the body adjusts to that sugar and releases insulin. Now, all grains will have a certain ratio of amylose, slower to break down, to amylopectin, faster to break down. And depending on what grain you're looking at, that ratio is going to be different. Now, what's interesting is einkorn has a higher amylose to amylopectin ratio, meaning the starch makeup of einkorn is more so slower to break down starch and less so fast to break down starch. When comparing to other grains, it does have like the best ratio, let's say, of amylose to amylopectin. And then in addition, it actually even has less overall amylose. Still, within that ratio, we still have a good ratio, but there's actually less amylose, so there's even less starch in general, comparing to other grains like spelt or even modern wheat. And modern wheat is more so like 75% amylopectin, so vast majority is the quick to break down starch, versus something like einkorn is going to be vast majority the slow to break down starch. So hopefully that makes sense. Basically, einkorn is just going to be like lower glycemic. That is a term that's often used. It's just going to break down more slowly. Of course, it's still carbohydrate, it's still flour, it's still going to break down into sugar, and it's still going to get into your bloodstream. But the more that we can slow down that assimilation of sugar from like our stomach and our intestines into our bloodstream, that is always, always a good thing. And that's not even factoring in, the fiber that could be in the flour, especially if we're looking at a whole wheat einkorn, which is going to slow it down even more. It's just the starch makeup itself is more favorable for your blood sugar versus other grains or wheat that's out there. Now, there are a few other nutritional benefits that I want to point out before we talk about how you can actually use einkorn. So one is it's just higher in protein, compared to something like modern wheat. So a bit more protein. So that is going to fill you up a little bit more. It's going to have higher satiety, meaning you're going to be feeling fuller longer. And again, it's going to help slow down that assimilation of sugar into your bloodstream, which is a good thing. So higher protein is always good, and einkorn does have a bit more. It has 3 to 4 times the beta carotene when we're looking at modern wheat. So beta carotene is it's one of the things that gives it its yellow buttery color, and it also has very powerful antioxidant properties. It also has 3 to 4 times the lutein, which is another reason it has that buttery yellow color. Lutein is basically like a yellow food pigment. When you think of something like egg yolks or something like carrots, these are also high in lutein. So that's what kind of gives it the color. But again, lutein is a very powerful antioxidant. So we're looking at higher antioxidant power in einkorn flour than your traditional wheat flour. And something that's interesting is it also has 4 to 5 times the riboflavin, which is a B vitamin. So I just wanted to point that out because it's kind of interesting. And B vitamins are super important for our body. There's a bunch of them, but riboflavin is one of them. They're important for energy production. They're important for handling stress. They're very, very key nutrients that we definitely need to be taking in on a daily basis, especially because our body can't store them. They're water soluble, so anything we're not using that we're taking in at the moment, any of those B vitamins we don't need right then, they will just get excreted in urine. So taking in B vitamins every day, through food, most importantly, is definitely very crucial. So those are the benefits really that you're gonna see in einkorn flour versus just like a modern wheat. So more digestible, more favorable for blood sugar, and then a few nutrients and antioxidants there that are just higher than when you're looking at modern wheat. So I did want to explain kind of how you can, how you purchase einkorn, how you use einkorn. So you can obviously buy einkorn flour. I love the Jovial brand. That's typically where I get my einkorn flour from. And I love the einkorn all-purpose flour that they make, because all-purpose flour is just, it's just easy to use in a lot of things that you're, cooking or baking. But I do also love whole wheat as well, but I don't buy einkorn whole wheat flour. They do make a whole wheat flour. I actually buy whole, just einkorn berries. I've been using a lot of these, so it's getting kind of low, but I actually have even more bags. But so these are the actual einkorn grains. So they're little wheat berries, and you can grind these if you have a grain mill, which is basically like a flour grinder. And that is what I do if we want to use whole wheat einkorn. So you can purchase the flour itself, you can purchase the berries, and then you can go on to use those in recipes. I love my grain mill. It is one of the appliances that I use like almost on a daily basis, or at least like several times a week. And I will link the exact one I have down below, but you literally just pour the berries right in the top. The fresh, nutrient-dense, antioxidant-rich flour just comes straight out into a bowl. It's so easy. And I just absolutely love my grain mill. I have done a whole video here on my channel about the benefits of grinding flour fresh, because the longer that flour sits, the more that the nutrition, really the nutrients and the antioxidants and the enzymes and whatever else will degrade over time. Versus these will be like good, pretty much they'll store very well for a very long time, and they will maintain all of that nutrition inside the grain. But once they're ground up and exposed to oxygen, it's a little bit of a different story. So I do love grinding flour fresh as much as I can, but I do see a total purpose for all-purpose flour in my kitchen. I also buy regular like wheat all-purpose flour, like organic unbleached as well, because I like a mix. I'm all for balance. So that's how I purchase mine. And then you can go on to use einkorn in basically any recipe that requires flour. The one biggest thing to know is that it, like modern wheat, soaks up more water than einkorn does. So it has to do with the proteins. So typically you need like a little bit less of einkorn than you would in a regular recipe. I don't really mess too much with that. I just kind of use it in place. Like if I'm going to use all-purpose flour in a regular recipe, if I use einkorn, I just use the same amount. But I'm also not a very technical, finicky cook or baker. I'm just more so trying to cook healthy things that taste pretty great. And if it's not, perfectly exact, or the crumb isn't the exact thing that I'm going for, that I don't care. It doesn't bother me. My kids don't care. My family doesn't care. I'm not, an artisan baker. So that to me is not super important, but it is something to note. And there are tons of recipes online for einkorn everything. I think Jovial even has a book. I don't have the book, but I'm sure it's excellent, where you can use, that's everything in there's einkorn recipes. But there's a wealth of that here on the internet. Certainly no shortage of inspiration when using einkorn. So I hope that you guys found this video helpful. I'm definitely a fan of einkorn. I try and use it as much as I can. But I definitely still use wheat as well. Again, I'm all for balance, but I do think that it's awesome, and I love all of the health benefits. I love that it's not hybridized, and it really is easy to use it in pretty much any recipe that you're already making. That is all I have for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe, join my little community here on YouTube, and of course, let me know down in the comments below what videos you guys would like to see next, because I love hearing from you. I really want to make videos that you want to see, so your feedback is so valuable to me. But that is all I have. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.